An versus military battle in the sky yesterday, and did it go down?
But simply where we live, there was definitely a lot of activity in the sky last night.
We were thinking it was going to be a dogfight, and that's what we heard. But I would say that we saw something very along the lines of a military slash alien altercation, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I would say even maybe a peaceful
Back and forth.
Yeah, but mostly a
communication.
peaceful interaction, right?
Yes,
like
an interaction.
Connecting with one another or possibly just following one another right around sunset.
You were barbecuing dinner, weren't you?
I was, you're right.
You were barbecuing the meat for dinner.
And
it was dusk. Yeah.
And I decided to look up in the sky because we had been talking about it all day. And when I looked up in the sky, I saw a very bright object. And at first I'm like, well, maybe it's just a satellite. Maybe it's just a star or something like that. But then I realized, well, there's no other stars out in the sky. It's still light outside. And the location it was way too big to be a satellite imaging. It wasn't moving. But it was also very bright and like almost a blinking.
Yeah. And when we zoomed in on the camera, it was obviously something. So we're going to post that video right here. This one has green.
Wouldn't that be fun? What'd you say?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
This one has green and white lights. Is that a plane?
Green and is that red?
No. Maybe look at this one.
Yeah, that looks like an orb, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like all the other stars are up high. That looks like there's a plane right here.
Baby, come look at it at this angle.
So show you that.
Baby, look.
Yeah, that's trippy.
What?
Can we make it bigger? Or is that as big as you can get it? You're seeing a plane come across underneath it now. Because you'll see the red beacon lights and you'll see a consistent. The interesting part, if you watch at the very end, and you might have to stop it and look at it again, but you will actually see it move. So it looks stationary to begin with, but at the very end, it actually will go one direction and then come back the other one and take off.
Yeah.
So very, very unique. And then later in the night, we went back out there once it was dark and we heard a lot of noise in the sky. There was a lot of planes flying back and forth.
Caveat, we live right next to a big marine base, and we live right off of the coast of Catalina Island and San Clemente Island, which is a notorious base, underground water base for UAPs, and it's right next to a marine base, a huge marine base.
And so we were looking out there, and you looked up and you started recording, and all of a sudden we had this one that flashed, came across our line of sight, and also on the camera that we were utilizing. And it wasn't an aircraft. I've been around aircraft for over 22 years, and my former line of work, and it wasn't. There were several aircraft also flying there, commercial, military, etc. All of them have their flashing beacons and such. That
it was so loud. It was
allows you to know.
You could hear all of the military activity in the sky, and it's like 10 o'clock at night at this point. And it was all centered around this bright light. There were 4 or 5 planes.
Yeah, so you had the bright light, which was zooming around, not staying in a continuous straight pattern. It did go into a pattern and then dipped over the house, like towards the ocean. And then you saw several aircraft trailing it, and there was probably anywhere from, like you said, 5 to 7 aircraft that were in a pattern. And altogether, I wish I had that portion of the video, but I don't. And they were going in the exact same direction that we had just seen this light
And then
orbit.
then they would just disappear, and then the light would come back again, and we would hear the sky roar up again with all of the airplanes and the
Right.
helicopters going in the direction of the orb, and then the orb would disappear and they would all disappear.
Yes, and then all of a sudden it was just silent and quiet. Not a sound in the sky. And, it's not normal patterns for aircraft to be super close to one another and to have them be flying, over each other and under each other in a close proximity. So there was definitely some type of unusual activity going on in the sky last night. So I wouldn't say that there was necessarily the great battle that was assumed to occur, of a dogfight between aliens and our fighter jets, but it was definitely something going on and some type of communication.
Yep.